Hey guys, this is my mini Bat report. Read two Batman books this week. Both were good. And Batman Eternals chugging along. It's still staying on course, which, maybe that's a low bar, but for a weekly, that seems like a tricky thing to do. And so, as a weekly, this is still working really well. Um, I enjoyed reading this issue, just not as much as the previous issue, which was by the exact same creative team. And I feel like we might start seeing a pattern where people do two issues, and the first issue is really strong, and the second issue is on a slightly lower level. And that's exactly how this was. That's exactly how the Genevieve Valentine two issue um, stint was. So I think that's probably going to be a thing, but we'll see if that prediction holds true. I kind of predicted it last week, I think. So, but overall, I guess there were points where the art looked sketchy or didn't have as much background. There was one page where it seemed really weak to me, almost like a different artist had filled in, but they didn't credit them. I don't think they credited them. Um, oh, maybe they did. Geraldo Borges is the second penciler here, or second artist listed. Um, in any case, it most of the art was. Oh, here's another one that I really didn't like. What's going on with the face there? That seemed really like he should have stopped and redrew that. That's not giving us Dick Grayson. But then there were amazing pages like this. So so yeah, not horrible or anything, just a step down from last issue. And the really good dialogue and quips and stuff that we saw from this writing team last issue was they were a little less good. And then the biggest flaw I think was there was this point where Red Hood is doing the sort of tech stuff while Red Robin is doing all the fighting, and it's kind of an interesting flip of their usual roles. Um, but there's nothing to indicate why the roles had flipped, and I think there must have been something they meant to put in. Either they left it out or forgot to put it in the rush to finish this issue. And it kind of culminates when the kind of punch drunk or whatever wasted Red Robin is barely able to crawl, and Red Hood pulls out the bat repellent, which was a nice callback to one of the big jokes of last issue. But that callback in particular made me think there was should have been something in here that caused or referenced some joke perhaps that made them decide to reverse roles, and it just didn't get written right or didn't get written in at all. And the other big rushed feeling in the writing was the last two pages about Grayson and Bluebird. Clearly, they needed to get them to their next point in the plot, and they just had 2 pages left, so they just kind of clumsily made that happen. But the plot's chugging along well. I'm definitely happy that I'm buying this and looking forward to next issue. I haven't peeked ahead to see who the creative team or the writer on the next issue is. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tinian again. He seems to step in and just do single issues, and then his other co-writers come in and do double issues, or 2 issues in a row, and then Tinian comes back in. We'll see. Um, Batman, I have been pretty down on this. Not down on Capullo's art, but down on Snyder's writing. And this issue redeemed him a bit for me. It didn't blow me out of the water, but it got me back in the game. I'm now interested in again to see where this storyline, what's it called, Super Heavy or something, where it's headed, what they're up to. Unusually, the title Super Heavy is on page 1. Usually they don't do that anymore. This is part 7, and maybe out of the 7 parts, there's been two or three good parts now, in my estimation. Other ones just seem to weave and wobble all over the place. And what made this work most for me was 3 moments of twisting the plot that just hooked me. and a general feeling of Snyder being more in control of the narrative than he felt like in other issues. And I've seen Joshua Hayes critiquing this kind of negatively, and I would say I agree with his critiques, except I thought they were things I've seen Snyder do many times before, and these were not as bad culprits, not as bad examples of those conveniences or overused metaphors or that kind of thing, as I feel I've seen Snyder do before. So I enjoyed seeing I enjoyed seeing Bat Gordon beat Bloom, and then I loved later in the comic the twist where we realize he hasn't beaten Bloom at all. Because then I was like, whoa, he beat Bloom so easily. But then, big spoilers here, we see there are many, many Blooms, and Bloom is far from defeated, and Bloom is now ramped up to another level of interestingness as a villain. So that was awesome. And then I did not see this coming, where the memoryless Bruce Wayne is taking action. He seemed like such a pansy before, such a bland nothing of a character, that it was a pleasant twist to suddenly see he's not and there's something going on. Although I do wish he had been developed better in earlier issues. I don't know if we were supposed to think there was nothing going on or whether Snyder was just laying down on the job. I did not mind the way in which Duke, whatever his name is, kind of forced some memories back on him. And I thought there were some really cool visuals, and it was just kind of fun to see the character's memories coming back in a way, ghosts of the past inside his head. My only complaint about Capullo is the way sometimes characters seem expressionless, because I think at this point I want some more expression on his face. I mean, he looks like a vegetable still on Bruce Wayne's face. But obviously something's going on underneath. So that was the second twist that I didn't see it coming that way. I can imagine better ways. I mean, I feel like they set up a whole different way for Bruce Wayne to get back his memory that would have been more believable. But in the context of everything, it was still a fun twist. And the huge spoiler, so if you want to read this Batman book, don't turn off now before you read it. The Joker is back and sitting down to have a conversation with Bruce Wayne. Where is this going to go? I really want to know. I can think of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different ways it could be played at this point. Maybe Bruce and the Joker will become friends for a while. I don't know, but that's really interesting. The art and the coloring were great, of course. I did kind of groan inwardly as as Snyder played in the captions these supposed thoughts of Gordon, but not at all thoughts you would have while you're in the middle of a fight, where he's, trying to make a profound metaphor between this certain weird game of poker and life in Gotham. And it just, yeah, it was just a typical Snyder thing that was neither here nor there for me. After watching Josh's review where he kind of tore this issue apart and thinking about how Gordon conveniently landed in a soft spot, I think Snyder is trying to show Gordon struggling as a superhero without his outfit and then succeeding in the end. But in the end, narratively, Gordon is supposed to be the older man, the commissioner, the figure of authority. He's not supposed to be able to survive these kind of heroics without his robot suit. And so, yeah, I didn't think about it at first. I've just sort of accepted the unrealisticness of it. And man, love that face on Gordon there. That's fun. But but it really does beg the question of, how far can you push Gordon if he's kind of doing these kind of, even though he's clumsily doing it, he's not throwing out his back, and he's, even if he's landing on something soft from a 40-foot drop or a 50-foot drop, he's not feeling like an old man, or even a mildly young man. He's feeling like an incredibly experienced acrobat stunt man. But other than that, it was cool to have him fight his own armor. It was cool to be rid of the armor, at least for a while. There's something kind of satisfying of having Gordon destroy this armor that many of us didn't really like anyway. So, good issue. I don't know if I'm constantly thinking maybe I should just wait for trade on Batman, or, I don't know if I'll drop off when Capullo's run is over. It's kind of been Capullo that keeps me coming back issue after issue, especially knowing that he has so few issues left. So I suppose there may be some like must-have artist coming on after Capullo that will keep me going. After all, it should be. They sell so many Batman comics. They should be able to get one of the best. So, like if Jock or Sean Murphy is going to be jumping on Batman, that will make it a no-brainer. Anyway, so that's my little Bat report for the week. If you like my other comic book thoughts, I apologize. I'm slow to get to reading my comic books these past few weeks. So now I have 2 parts of last week and almost all of this week's worth of comics still to read in terms of my non-Batman books and my indies and such. But I hope before Christmas to make one more comic book thoughts video if I can. Talk to y'all later.